close your eyes for a moment and just notice your mind. How many thoughts are running right now? How many conversations are replaying? How many outcomes are being predicted? How many problems are being solved that have not even happened yet? Overthinking is quiet, but it is heavy. It is smiling in front of people while your mind is racing inside. It is lying in bed exhausted, yet unable to rest. It is trying to prepare for every possible future so you never get hurt. And strangely, it feels responsible. It feels like you are being careful. Like if you just think a little more, plan a little better, analyze one more angle, you will finally feel safe. But what if that safety never comes? What if the real reason you are tired is not your circumstances, but the weight of trying to carry what was never meant for you to carry? There is a kind of weight that belongs to effort, and there is a kind of weight that belongs to Allah. When we mix the two, we suffocate. Tonight, I want to gently ask you something. What would happen if you stopped trying to control everything? What would happen if you did your part and then truly left the rest to Allah? Not as a phrase you say casually, not as something you post online, but as something you feel deep in your chest. Because everything changes when the heart shifts. Everything changes when you stop overthinking and start trusting. When something goes wrong, what is the first thing you do? Pause and really think about that. When you receive bad news, when a message feels cold, when plans fall apart, when uncertainty suddenly enters the room, what happens inside you first? For many of us, it is not calm. It is a rush, a tightening in the chest, a sudden flood of thoughts, a need to fix it immediately. We reach for our phones. We search for answers. We start calculating possibilities. We imagine worst-case scenarios before reality even settles. And almost automatically, we start carrying it alone. Most of us panic first and pray later. We analyze first and turn to Allah after we are already exhausted. But what if we reversed that order? What if before the overthinking had a chance to grow, before the fear multiplied, before your mind ran ahead of you, you paused, even for 5 seconds, and you whispered, Ya Allah. Not perfectly, not with long memorized words, just honestly, Ya Allah, help me understand this. Ya Allah, protect me from what I fear. Ya Allah, I do not want to carry this alone. That small shift awakens something powerful inside you. Because who you run to first reveals who you believe is truly in control. When your first instinct is panic, your heart is leaning on itself. When your first instinct is turning to Allah, your heart is returning to its anchor. Dua is not meant to be your emergency exit. It is meant to be your first refuge. And the more you train your heart to run to Allah before it runs to fear, the less space overthinking has to grow. The problem may still exist. The uncertainty may still be real, but your heart feels steadier. Because you are no longer standing in front of the storm by yourself. You have shifted from reaction to reliance. And that shift, repeated again and again, slowly changes the way you experience everything. Overthinking feels like control. That is why it is so hard to let go of. It feels responsible. It feels intelligent. It feels like you are preparing yourself so nothing catches you off guard. You tell yourself, I just need to think this through one more time. Maybe there is something I missed. Maybe if I analyze it deeply enough, I will finally feel calm. But notice something. Has overthinking ever truly given you certainty? Has replaying a conversation in your head changed what was already said? Has imagining 10 different futures prevented the one that was written for you? Overthinking creates movement in the mind. but it rarely creates peace in the heart. And yet we cling to it. Because deep down it gives us the illusion that we are in charge. If I think enough, I can control the outcome. If I prepare for every scenario, I will not be hurt. If I anticipate every problem, I will not be surprised. But the unseen does not belong to you. Tomorrow is not waiting in your hands to be shaped by your anxiety. There is a difference between thoughtful planning and obsessive control. Planning is calm. Planning has limits. Planning knows when to stop. Overthinking has no end. It loops. It repeats. It feeds on uncertainty and then creates more of it. And slowly, almost without realizing, you begin to believe that everything depends on you. Your success, your relationships, your safety, your future. That belief is heavy. Because somewhere inside you know you are limited. You know you cannot see everything. You know you cannot predict everything. You know you cannot guarantee everything. But instead of admitting that, you try harder. You think more, you tighten your grip. And the tighter you hold, the more exhausted you become. Overthinking is not strength. It is often fear dressed as responsibility. It is a heart that does not feel safe, trying to manufacture safety through control. But real safety does not come from knowing every outcome. It comes from knowing who holds every outcome. And until that shifts, the mind will keep racing, trying to control what was never meant to be controlled. There is something we rarely admit to ourselves. We are not built to carry everything alone. We get tired. We get overwhelmed. We reach limits. And yet, many of us feel ashamed of that. Somewhere along the way, we learned that strength means independence, that needing help is weakness, that relying on anyone, even Allah, somehow means we are not strong enough. So we push ourselves harder. We tell ourselves to be tougher, to handle it, to stop being emotional, to stop needing reassurance. But being human means being limited. You were never designed to know everything. You were never designed to control everything. You were never designed to sustain endless pressure without support. And that is not a flaw. It is design. When you feel overwhelmed, it does not mean you are failing at faith. It means you are human. The real struggle begins when you refuse to accept that. When you try to step into the role of provider of outcomes, protector of the future, manager of every detail. That role was never yours. And trying to live in it will quietly drain you. There is a quiet relief that comes when you say, I cannot do this alone. Not in defeat, but in honesty. Ya Allah, I need you. That sentence is not weakness. It is alignment. It is stepping back into the place you were created to stand. A servant, not a controller. When you accept your limits, something softens inside you. You stop fighting reality. You stop pretending to be invincible. You allow yourself to depend. And dependence on Allah does not shrink you. It steadies you. Because instead of building your life on your fluctuating strength, you build it on something unshakable. Overthinking grows strongest when you believe everything rests on you. But the moment you remember that you are not the one holding the world together, your shoulders begin to relax. You were never meant to carry it all. You were meant to carry your effort and leave the rest where it belongs. What actually makes something easy? We often assume ease means the problem disappears, that the storm never comes, that life becomes smooth and predictable. But that is not always how it works. Two people can face the same situation, the same loss, the same delay, the same uncertainty. One feels crushed by it. The other walks through it with quiet steadiness. The difference is not always the size of the test. It is the weight inside the heart. Ease is not the absence of difficulty. It is the presence of support. There are moments in life when nothing about the situation changes, yet something inside you feels lighter. You still have the responsibility. You still have the uncertainty. You still have unanswered questions. But the panic is softer. The heart is not shaking the same way. Why? Because you are no longer relying on yourself alone. There is a profound difference between carrying something by yourself and being carried while you carry it. When you believe everything depends on you, every decision feels life-altering. Every mistake feels catastrophic. Every delay feels threatening. But when you sincerely leave the outcome to Allah, the pressure shifts. You still make effort. You still show up. You still try your best. But you are not gripping the result with fear. You understand that ease does not come from perfect circumstances. It comes from knowing that whatever happens, it passes through the wisdom of Allah first. That understanding changes the way you experience hardship. The storm may still blow, but you do not feel abandoned in it. The uncertainty may still exist, but it does not suffocate you. Because ease is not about control. It is about trust. And when trust settles into the heart, even difficult seasons feel different. Not painless, but possible. Not light, but bearable. And sometimes quietly, even transformative. Sometimes the real reason we cannot let go is because of how we see Allah. We believe in Him. We say we trust Him. But deep inside, our image of Him may still feel distant, as if He is watching from far away, observing, testing, measuring, and somehow waiting to see if we pass. When that is the image in your heart, of course you will overthink, because you feel alone in the test. You feel like the responsibility is entirely yours. Like you must prove yourself. Like you must figure everything out before you deserve relief. But Allah is not a distant observer of your struggle. He is not unaware of your anxiety. He is not disconnected from your tears. He knows the thoughts that keep circling in your head. He knows the fears you never say out loud. He knows the silent questions that sit heavy in your chest. You are not explaining your pain to someone who does not understand. You are turning to the one who already knows. And that changes the way you pray. Because instead of feeling like you are reporting to a judge, you are returning to a source of safety. Instead of feeling evaluated, you feel seen. Think about the moments when your overthinking is loudest. Late at night, when the room is quiet, when there is no distraction left. In those moments, you are not alone. Even when no one else understands what is happening inside your mind, Allah does. And when that truth becomes real in your heart, not just a concept, something softens. You stop trying to perform strength. You stop trying to solve everything before turning to Him. You begin to speak honestly. Ya Allah, I am scared. Ya Allah, I do not understand. Ya Allah, I need clarity. There is no formality required. No perfection needed, just sincerity. And the more you see Allah as near, the easier it becomes to release control. Because you are not leaving your life in empty space. You are placing it in the care of the One who has always been closer than you realized. Overthinking is not always about the future. Sometimes it is about avoiding the present. It is easier to stay in your head than to sit with what you feel. Easier to analyze than to admit you are hurt. Easier to plan than to admit you are afraid. Easier to calculate than to admit you feel rejected, uncertain, small. Control can feel safer than vulnerability. If you stay busy thinking, you do not have to feel the weight in your chest. If you keep solving imaginary problems, you do not have to face the real emotion underneath. But unprocessed feelings do not disappear. They wait. They sit quietly beneath the noise of your thoughts. And the more you avoid them, the louder your mind becomes. You cannot heal what you refuse to feel. And feeling does not mean collapsing. It does not mean losing control. It means allowing yourself to be honest. There is a difference between drowning in emotion and bringing that emotion to Allah. When you bring it to Him, it becomes lighter. You can say, Ya Allah, this hurts. Ya Allah, I am disappointed. Ya Allah, I am scared of what might happen. You do not need perfect language. You do not need composed strength. You need sincerity. When you stop pretending in front of Allah, something inside you loosens. The pressure to appear strong begins to fade. The tension in your chest slowly eases. The tears you were holding back finally have somewhere safe to go. Overthinking keeps you trapped in your mind. Vulnerability opens your heart. And a heart that turns to Allah honestly does not break the same way. It bends, it softens, it releases. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stop trying to outthink your pain and instead sit with it in the presence of the one who understands it completely. You are not asked to suppress. You are not asked to pretend. You are invited to bring it all exactly as it is. And when you do, the need to control everything slowly begins to fade. Because you are no longer running from what you feel. You are placing it where it belongs. Leaving it to Allah does not mean giving up. It does not mean becoming passive. It does not mean sitting back and doing nothing. That misunderstanding keeps many hearts stuck. They think, if I truly let go, I will lose control of my life. If I stop worrying, things will fall apart. If I stop overthinking, I will become careless. But surrender is not carelessness. It is clarity. You still take action. You still prepare. You still show up with effort and sincerity. You send the message. You attend the interview. You study. You try to repair the relationship. You make the decision that feels right. But then you release the outcome. And that release is internal. It is quiet. It sounds like this inside your heart. Ya Allah, I have done what I can. Now I trust you with what I cannot control. That is the balance. Control your effort. Release the result. Overthinking happens when you try to control both. You want to control your actions and the response, your work and the reward, your intention and how people perceive you. But the result has never been yours. And gripping it tightly only creates fear. What if it does not work? What if they say no? What if I fail? Trust does not remove those possibilities. It removes the panic attached to them, because you begin to understand something deeper. If something leaves your life, it was not meant to stay. If something is delayed, it is not lost. If something does not work out, it is not random. When you trust Allah with the outcome, you free your heart from constant negotiation with the future. You stop trying to secure every path. You walk forward and let Allah open or close doors. And that is where calm begins to settle. Not because you know what will happen, but because you know who is handling what happens. And that knowledge slowly quiets the need to overthink everything. Take a slow breath with me for a moment. Notice how much of your life has been spent trying to predict what has not yet happened. Notice how many nights were lost to thoughts that never became reality. Overthinking promises protection, but it rarely delivers peace. You were not created to hold every outcome in your hands. You were created to make sincere effort and then trust. Trust does not mean your life will be free of storms. It means you will not face them alone. It means that when uncertainty knocks at your door, you do not have to panic. You do not have to rehearse every possible disaster. You can pause. You can breathe. You can say, Ya Allah, I leave this to you. And in that moment, something shifts. Your shoulders soften. Your chest loosens. Your mind begins to slow. Not because you suddenly know what will happen, but because you remember that control was never yours to begin with. Overthinking is heavy. Reliance is light. Overthinking says everything depends on you. Trust says you are supported in ways you cannot see. And when that truth settles into your heart, calm begins to replace chaos. Not perfectly, not instantly, but gradually, steadily.